Picture this. You're in a conversation, maybe with your partner, a coworker, someone you've just met, and they say something that slightly contradicts your opinion. And before they've even finished their sentence, something in you has already tensed up. You're no longer really listening. You're preparing, building your counter-argument, defending. You didn't choose to do that. It just happened. That automatic reaction right there is what I want to talk about today. Because here's the thing. That reaction isn't just a communication habit. It's the ego doing exactly what it was designed to do. Protect the image you have of yourself. And the ego is very, very good at its job. It runs quietly in the background of almost everything you do, how you walk into a room, how you respond to criticism, how you scroll through social media, how you tell the story of your own life. It's shaping your choices without asking your permission. And for most people, most of the time, it's the primary source of suffering. Not because you're broken, not because you're narcissistic, but because we were never taught to see it. We were taught to build it, improve it, protect it, perform it, but never to actually look at it. The result? A kind of low-grade exhaustion, the relentless performance of managing how you're perceived. The anxiety of knowing that your sense of worth is always one criticism away from crumbling. The loneliness of people relating to your image instead of to you. But here's what makes this really interesting. The solution isn't what most people expect. It's not about building stronger confidence. It's about loosening the grip on the self entirely. And when you do, something opens up that no amount of self-improvement ever could. That's what we're going to explore today. Before we get into the practical pieces, I want to give you the idea that makes all of it make sense. The ego isn't you. It's a story about you. There's a part of your mind that is constantly narrating your life. It tells you who you are, what you deserve, how others see you, who wronged you, and because that voice never shuts up, because it's always there, we start to believe we are the voice, that the story is the truth. But you've had moments that proved otherwise, maybe in deep flow or in nature or in a really honest conversation where the narrator went quiet, where you were just present, not thinking about yourself at all. And in those moments, did you feel like less or did you feel somehow more free? That's the gap this whole video lives in, between the story and the storyteller, between the ego and the awareness that watches it. You can't destroy the narrator. You don't need to, but you can stop being controlled by it. Part 1. The machine in your head. There's a network in your brain that becomes active when you're not focused on anything specific. When you're daydreaming, planning, ruminating, or rehearsing social situations. It's sometimes called the default mode network. But for our purposes, think of it as the brain's me machine. Its job is to generate a continuous sense of self, to track where you stand socially, to simulate what others think of you, to replay moments where you felt hurt or humiliated, to rehearse how you'll handle the next threat to your status. This was useful once. In a world where your survival depended on your position in the group, tracking social threat all day made sense. But you're not living in that world, and yet the machine is still running, full time, burning your energy, pulling you out of the present moment, and feeding you a version of reality filtered almost entirely through the question, how does this affect me? The first step to loosening the ego's grip is simply noticing that this machine exists. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who can observe them. And the moment you observe a thought, the moment you can say, there's that voice again, you've already created a small but significant distance from it. That distance is everything. Part 2, the question that exposes everything. Once you can see the machine running, you can start asking a question that changes the way you act in the world. The question is, where is this coming from? Not what am I doing, but why, really, honestly, underneath the surface justification, why am I doing it? Think about something you want right now, to be right in an argument, to get a promotion, to be seen a certain way, to help someone. Now hold that want and ask, is this coming from a genuine desire to contribute, to connect, to grow? Or is it coming from the ego's need to be validated, to win, to feel superior, to avoid feeling small? Most of us, if we're honest, will find ego in places we didn't expect. The compliment that's really a brag. The advice that's really about proving we know more. The generosity that quietly keeps score. This isn't meant to make you feel bad about yourself. It's meant to make you honest. Because when you can see your real motivation, you have a choice about whether to act from it. When you can't see it, you have no choice at all. The ego operates in the dark. Bring it into the light and you get to decide. Part 3. The gap. Between every trigger and every response, there is a gap. Something happens, someone criticizes you, cuts you off in traffic, dismisses your idea in a meeting, and in the fraction of a second before you react, there is a tiny space where you could choose, where the next thing you do doesn't have to be automatic. Most people never find that gap. They go from trigger to reaction without any pause at all, and they call it personality. That's just who I am. But it isn't who you are. It's who the ego has trained you to be. The gap is where real freedom lives, and the way you access it isn't through willpower, it's through presence. When you feel the surge of the impulse, the need to clap back, to defend, to take over, pause, just for one breath, and ask, if I had no ego invested in this moment, what would actually be the right thing to do? Sometimes the answer is still to speak up firmly, but it comes from a different place. It comes from clarity, not threat, and the difference between those two feels completely different on the receiving end. Part 4, from getting to giving. Here's the shift that most people find the most surprising and the most powerful. When the ego is running the show, every situation becomes a transaction. What can I get from this? How do I come out ahead? What does this say about me? But when you loosen that grip, a completely different orientation becomes available. Instead of asking what you can get from a situation, you start asking, what does this situation actually need from me? Try applying that to a difficult conversation. Most of us walk into conflict fully armored, our talking points ready, our defenses up, prepared to protect our version of events. But what if you walked in empty? Not passive, not a pushover, but genuinely open to seeing what the other person actually needs rather than what you plan to deliver. Sometimes what a situation needs is your directness. Sometimes it's your patience. Sometimes it's your silence. But you can't know which one it is when you're too busy managing your own image to actually pay attention. The people who seem effortlessly magnetic, who make others feel truly seen and at ease, aren't doing anything special. They've just stopped making every room about themselves. And that absence of self-concern reads as presence, as warmth, as safety. When you stop performing, people can finally feel you. It's worth being clear about what this is not, because this idea gets misunderstood in ways that can actually cause harm. Letting go of the ego is not the same as having no boundaries. You can be deeply unattached to your self-image and still say no firmly, protect your energy, and walk away from what doesn't serve you. It's not about becoming agreeable. You can disagree vigorously, clearly, without needing to win or needing the other person to be wrong. It's not spiritual bypassing. That's when people use going beyond ego as an excuse to avoid accountability, skip over real emotions, or pretend everything is fine when it isn't. That's just the ego wearing a robe. And it's not a permanent state you achieve and then hold forever. This is a practice, a direction. You'll get pulled back into ego 100 times a day, especially under stress, especially in relationships that matter. That's not failure. That's being human. The only difference between someone who has done this work and someone who hasn't is how quickly they notice. None of this requires a retreat, a meditation cushion, or years of philosophical study. It starts with 3 small moves you can make today. First, notice the narrator. When a strong reaction arises, just observe it before you act on it. There's that voice. That's enough to begin. Second, ask where it's coming from. Just once today, catch yourself wanting something and genuinely ask whether it's coming from wisdom or from ego. Not to judge it, just to see it clearly. Third, try one conversation where you show up empty. No agenda, no talking points, just a real interest in what the other person actually needs from you in that moment. These aren't grand gestures, but they compound, and what they're building quietly underneath everything is a kind of freedom that no achievement, no status, and no amount of external validation can ever actually give you. Because the peace you've been looking for was never on the other side of being seen. It's on the other side of letting go of the need to be. Before you go, try this. Put into your own words what this video was really about. Not the examples, but the core idea underneath all of them. Say it out loud if you can. Because if you can say it in your own words, it'll stay with you. And if you're struggling to find the words, that's a great reason to watch it one more time. See you in the next one.